The thing that comes to mind about driving the car is the rumble of the exhaust pipes, which are not straight pipes, but they're very little muffler on this car. So it produces a deep tone, a rumble that I remember growing up of all these kids that had cars in high school. I'm Tony Adsley, and I enjoy driving a 1951 custom lead sled Mercury. Well, I looked for this car over a 10-year period. I didn't think I wanted a coupe. I thought I wanted a convertible. And so this car popped up, and it was so proportionately perfect for the concept of what a customized lead sled 51 Mercury is supposed to look like that I just couldn't pass on it. I had to have it. I like to go to a car show that's got a couple thousand cars or more. You go around and look at all your favorite types of cars. And I have probably 10,000 pictures of cars and car shows on my hard drive. Wow. And so that all becomes part of, pretty soon you realize, you know, I really like that model car. So then you focus in on that model car and you start going online looking for that model and seeing as many of those as you can. And I flew out to California to look at this car and examined it, inspected it, drove it, came back and dwelt on it for a while, and then negotiated with the seller. The Mercury was really the first car that set off the customization era of the car collectors and the modification of cars. The hot rod thing had run its course a little bit, and so the customs were coming in, and the 49, 50, 51 Mercury lent itself very well. George Barris was the iconic customizer, and he was made famous through his Mercury customs. And so that being the case, I wanted to have a Mercury that was of that era. And my favorite Mercury is the 51. The 49 and 50 are very popular, and possibly more popular than the 51 even. But the 51, they extended the rear fenders all the way back a little bit, and they became more protruded on each side. And it gave it kind of an interesting look to the rear and allowed for some custom taillights to go back there. They're a little different than those Mercurys without those fins back there. The chop changes this car if you like customs, and you smooth it down by taking off the chrome off the hood and off the door handles and the trunk, and you minimize the chrome, you simplify the car, clean it up, and then you chop the top to give it more of a streamlined look to it. And that's not a simple matter to do that. You have to lean the A-pillar back, the B-pillar forward, and that chop is so hard to get it. It's easy to mess it up with a bad chop. So this particular chop, in my opinion, is just wonderful. It's a very proportionate, well done. So that has to be my favorite feature. Sure. And then these came with flathead V8s, and they were underpowered. The flatheads run hot. So the modern drivetrain, modern to this car, is a small block Chevrolet with a 3-speed, 4-speed automatic transmission and a rear end that's stronger. The drivetrain is a classic small Chevrolet V8, 350 cubic inch. It's hooked up to what Chevrolet calls a turbo hydro 350. It's a 3-speed automatic. Okay. which is a very strong transmission and good for a heavy car like this. And then that's hooked up to, in this case, a Chevrolet 10-bolt rear end, which is a strong rear end. My guess is whoever built this just had the Chevy rear end around, and it works fine. This is not a high performance motor, but if you wanted to put a lot more horsepower in this car, which was popular to put Cadillac motors in them back then, you'd want a 9-inch Ford in it. You've probably seen some flamethrowers in movies. Gone in 60 Seconds comes to mind. That had a great flame. And that was a Mercury, just like this one.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And that feature is more about the era, the 50s and 60s. They were popular back then. So this is equipped to bypass the motor with the exhaust fumes and ignite them. The environmentalists will love this. Ignite them in the rear portion of the exhaust system instead. So the flame actually the combustion doesn't take place in the engine, it takes place at the end of the exhaust pipe. And they shoot out about this point. The onboard compressors will put air into the bags and raise the car up for driving height. And then when you park it, you can lower the car down practically almost on the ground to give it even more of a custom look and a more proportionate look than it is when it's up. So that's a whole system that involves totally different suspension, front and rear. With in the rear of the car, there's a compartment that has compressors in it and valves, and I have control over each wheel as to how high or low that fender is on that wheel. Yes, chrome bumpers and chrome grille, and the rest is stainless steel. Most people think it's chrome until you really look at it, and it's just a different medium for the trim. There's Frenched-in headlights, which means they're recessed, and Frenched-in taillights that are recessed. And those are 54 Mercury taillights, which were a newer era car. And a lot of the customization features used during that period were newer car features put onto older cars. And they could be, for instance, the grill shell on this car has all been hollowed out and smoothed in, so it's a rounded. The hood opening, the grill opening, and the hood is rounded if you look at that. That's not stock. They didn't come that way.
Okay.
They're all the corners have been rounded so you have a smooth look to it. This pinstripe was done by a rather famous pinstriper in California by the name of Jeff Stiles. And he did the dash, he did the trunk, and he did the hood. All three of those areas are of his style. That feature is representative of that era, as are the fact there's no door handles, and to open the doors, solenoids are used. So they're discreetly placed so that you can open the doors without a key. Well, in the era that this car became popular. It was built in the 90s, but it represents the late 50s, mid to late 50s, when they were actually, these cars were being customized as used cars back then. Mm-hmm. So one of the things you did to these old Mercurys is you put a Cadillac hubcap on them. And there are two varieties, actually. One is called the sombrero, which looks like a sombrero hat. And the other is the Eldorado, the 57 Eldorado cap, which this car has on it. Well, that's kind of a throwback to high school, you know. The cool guys all got the women. And sometimes you'd put the underwear on the mirror. I don't know why. I have no idea. But that would occur sometimes. And so this car is way older than thong underwear, which those are. Like, I love to look at this car when it's lowered. And it's just iconic. Look.
Absolutely.
So to have this in my garage where I can appreciate it on a daily basis is really cool for me.